Hi, I'm Maggie,
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
a very bookish podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to a Very Bookish podcast. Today's episode 85, and I have a very special guest with me. I have author Lori Thron with me, and today we're going to be talking about her. We're going to be talking about her new release. We're going to be talking about some Amazon shenanigans that happen, and we're going to be talking about her history in publishing because she's not only a romance author, but she has authored other books. So welcome, Lori.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
I think you did mention before that you did your own podcast, and so it's different being on the opposite end.
I was even talking to my partner. We used to do the Creative CEO show, me, Alyssa, and I. And I was like, I'm so nervous. And she's like, are you kidding? You've done like a billion things. And I'm like, it's different being on the other end.
Yeah. I think Grace and I got interviewed one time for a podcast, and we were just like, this feels so weird. Like it's different. It's different from like asking the questions and having to constantly think about the questions versus like answering the questions and you're like, how am I supposed to answer this? So I feel you. So for our audience who hasn't heard of you before, do you want to like introduce yourself and some of your history in publishing?
Sure. So I'm Lori Thron. I've published everything under that name. It's my real name. So you can find me. I'm not safe at all. And I started out with kids' books. So I have my Boring Werewolf family series, and I have kids. I have 3 kids. They are little werewolves. And my husband and I try to convince them sometimes that, they are some sort of mythological creature, but they just don't know yet because the side effects set in when they hit puberty. And so this is where that book idea came from. And I was like, you know what? I want to write that. And that's kind of what got me started writing. And I absolutely fell in love with the process of it. Just being creative in that way was a real world opener. And I've always been a reader. I just didn't know I could write, I guess. I never thought about it. I did Cozy Reader next, which comes from just feeling anxious. If you ever felt anxious, Cozy Reader might be a good choice for you. They're like little perfect no tension scenarios to read before bedtime. And that was fun to write. It actually made me feel really good to write also. And then the first novel, of course, is Remotely Love. And it is a romance novel because that's what I love to read. And I dared myself. I was like, you know what? You've written these other things. You love romance. You can do this. Do it. So there we are.
Yeah. I mean, so Remotely Love is your first romance book. And what, like you said that you wanted to challenge yourself to write romance, but like, were you always planning on writing romance, or was it kind of like, oh, a spark of the moment, you're like, I'll do this?
I always have the fear, and I think a lot of authors have the fear of I'm going to run out of ideas. And I still have that fear sometimes. But I had like little baby ideas, but I couldn't expound upon them. It was like they would be something and then they would get stuck. And then, and why didn't I think of this? Because it's certainly like a well-repeated phrase, but write what you know. Well, I've been doing remote work since 2012, before it was cool. Or before we were all forced to do it, whatever. Yeah. And I really love remote work, and I have seen people fall in love and make best friendships and like just be really close to people across the country, around the world. And I was like, this is it. This is the modernized workplace romance that needs to happen.
I mean, I always think about that. Like, I feel like romance books that are in the workplace, it's like, okay, but now we have like Zoom. Like we have Zoom meetings, we have Teams meetings. Like none of this is in these books. And as a corporate girly too, I'm like, this doesn't feel like real corporate. And I'm like, my boss would not let me leave like this. Just run out of the office in the middle of the day. I know for sure I'd be questioned. Like, why are you leaving, Maggie? It is not 5 p.m. yet. Maggie, why are you leaving? So I definitely get that. And your cover is really cute. She will have a picture of the cover up on our Instagram, but it's like a text between 2 people, and then it shows the phone, and it's really cute. And I was wondering, like, how did that process come come to fruition of designing your cover?
I did not do it. First of all, I am not talented in that way. I took a pathetic stab at it and it was horrible. And I was like, well, this is not going to work. So I actually reached out to the person that did the My Boring Werewolf family books to see if she might be interested, because I loved them. And it would have to be like a different style, right? More adult. But I had faith in her. But she did not respond quick enough. Like, no hate on her, she's fantastic, but there was something that happened that she couldn't reply, and I was on a timeline. So I was venting to my girlfriend Heather about this while we were out for coffee one day, and she was like, Lori, I can do it. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. I forgot that you're talented in this way. And she was like, I would love to do it. So she's brilliant. She had just she had like 2 different concepts developed. They were both really good. It was so hard to choose, but one of them just fit a cover better. And that was this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always love the stories of people talking about how they created their covers. Cause I'm like, I was on Wattpad and I tried to make my covers for Wattpad. And when I tell you those turned out disastrous, like, I'm like, I look back at them now. I look back at them now and I'm like, this is so cringe. Like, I can't believe I thought this was good. Like, especially with all the new cartoon covers that come out, and like they're gorgeous and amazing. And I look at my like overlaid cover with photos and like of an eye and a mountain. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrific. Like nobody would have like looking at it. I'm like, why would anybody choose to read this? It's because I'm such a visual person. So like if I don't love the cover of a book, I probably won't read it because I have to feel that cover of a book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. And like, this was not on any of our agendas, but we're going to squirrel after it anyway. Since she's like my best friend, it's Heather Balsaric. She's just amazing. But she like, I was like, how do I credit her as the illustrator? Because this is a skill that I do not have, right?
Yeah.
And so I was Googling about this. And I mean, of course I can list her as the illustrator. But I came across this idea that like, why don't we have about the illustrator, the page, right? Like right next to the about the author page, right? In the back matter of the book. And so I made one for her. So like anyone who ends up buying Remotely Love, you can check her out. She's got her own amazing podcast, Connect the Dots. Like she's just incredible. But I don't know if many people are doing that. And I think we should.
Oh yeah. I always think about that. I always like look at covers and I'm like, who designed this? Like, who is the person behind this? Because I know I could never, but I like want to see like people, like I follow a couple like designers on Instagram, and like Grace is also a graphic designer. So she does a couple covers. She did one for the Lee Jaco series. And I'm like, damn, y'all are talented. And then I'm like, where can I find this information about them? And sometimes the author does post them on like Instagram and stuff. They're like, oh, thank you for the cover and stuff. But like, I feel like in big publishing too, they kind of keep it secret about who does the covers. And I'm like, I want to know, who does these covers. Cause I know a lot of indie authors will tag the artists and stuff, but publishers, they're like, here you have to find it at the back of the book at like page 635 in like line 4. And I'm like, that doesn't help me at all. But so kind of like you obviously wrote Remotely Love because you love romance. So do you want to kind of talk about your love affair with romance and how you got into it?
Allie Hazelwood, she got me. Before I read, I think the first one I read from her was The Love Hypothesis. Before I like dove into this book, I really had this stupid view of romance where I thought that they were all like Fabio covers and like getting laid on a hay bale in the barn, and like just I was so ridiculous, but that was the image that I had in my head. And then when I read her story, and it was about grad school, and it was about like real life grad school too, kudos to her. and, and like an actual people and their situation and how it was a real story. And I fell in love with the characters. And then, yeah, there was spiciness. Amazing. But like, it was a love story first and the smutty stuff second. And that just totally like blew my mind. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to read from now on. Just give me this. And so it's been a magical journey since then.
Love Hypothesis came out in 2021. So
Yeah.
are you new to romance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Wow.
I totally
oh my
am.
gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird because I've been in love with romance since I was like in my teens. Like I am one of those bodice ripper cover lovers. I'm so sorry. My cat is freaking out. I love a good bodice ripper. I have like the J.R. Ward. I have everything under the sun romance. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people felt that way with romance, and like in the pandemic is where we kind of see that trend of romance becoming more and more popular again, as it wasn't enough popular. It's become more and more popular. It's it's like over $1 billion industry, just romance alone. So it's kind of crazy that it's so weird to me to think that like, no, like people like always had a love for romance, I feel like, but there was this like cliche around like romance books. And like I always read stories for the romance, and I didn't realize that until I was watching like TV shows and stuff. I'm like, oh, they're such a good couple. They're so good. And there's like two best friends. And I'm like, damn, it would be good to see them in a relationship. And like I'm always looking for that. And I think that like cliche also feel like as women, we also like, I don't know, I feel like society in general just doesn't, it puts us down. So of course we have that like internalized misogyny of, oh, this is cringy, like this is weird, and like why would I want to read about that? But then like you get into it and you're like, damn, she did what? He did what to her? Like what?
You're so right. And like I'm just gonna assume that I'm allowed to say this, but there's like a masturbatory fantasy in my book. And it was so liberating to write about. I was like, yes, I love this. This is totally real. And I'm so glad that it's there. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah. I also feel like romance is a safe space to explore yourself. And I know it is fictional, but also like you can read something, you're like, oh, I would never, or you're like, oh, now this is interesting. I know it feels like a safe space, especially for women, because we've never really had that in the world. And it just feels great to like be able to like read whatever you want. And everybody on campus knows, like everybody in my classes knows I'm a slut whore or a smut whore. The same thing. I am a whore for smut. I have like smut. I have our smut lover beanie. I literally have a sweatshirt that says probably reading smut that my tax professor called me out on. And he's like, probably reading smut. And I was like in the like back of the classroom, and he's reading it aloud to the entire class. And I'm like, so you like romance? And I'm like, yes, in fact, I do. And I didn't back down from it. And I feel like ever since then, I'm just like, there's a reason why they make all these movies off of romance books and not, well, they do fantasy and stuff, but not nonfiction books are usually about history and stuff. But that's not the point. The point is it's $1 billion industry. Y'all should not hate on it.
Right. No judgment. Judgment-free zone.
And that's and that's why I also created my book talk, is to be a judgment-free zone. So that leads me, since you are kind of a newer romance author, are you planning on doing other romance books?
Yes, I'm already writing one, and I don't have a working title, but I love the process of writing, but this is it. Like this, I want this to be my full time. I know that's a pipe dream, but I'm just gonna.
Yeah. I mean,
keep it. But
yeah. What was kind of the process of writing this book? Was this like you just were writing a chapter, or you're like, I want to write this book, and like you fully like, what was kind of your process going through the draft to this published version?
I am like learning as I go, right? This is the first novel. So it's been an incredible sponge sort of learning experience. But I did draft all of the chapters in like a very messy notepad kind of deal, just to have like the shape of the thing. And then I wrote without a timeline, I have a full-time job, so like, when I could. And it got so fun that I kept writing more and more. And then I started doing today while writing segments on TikTok, which I just do every day because I think it's so cool to share what's happening. And at the end, when I was done, I let my husband read it and then did some edits. And then I reread it myself after a cool down period, which was very hard for me. Because I just want to take action.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, you have to separate yourself. So I took some time away from it, and then I came back and read it and did some editing. And then I did beta readers, which were amazing. That was like the scariest part to me, because I'm like, okay, I love this story. And my husband, who, is not partial at all, right?
Yeah.
He likes the story, but will other people get it? And the beta readers gave me excellent advice. First of all, amazing. But we're also so positive. They were like, what is happening? They like fell for all of the buildup. They wanted more. They said they couldn't put it down. And that was so encouraging. I was like, okay, third-party people like the book. This is good. Someone is going to like this out here. This is good. So I did I applied most of their feedback, not all of it. Polished it up. And then we sought ARC readers through my author newsletter, Story Origin, and TikTok. I got, I think, 19 at the end of the day. I just accepted all of them. I was just like, anyone who wants to read this is my first debut novel, like I will take one. And they gave really great feedback too. And now hopefully they'll leave me reviews. ARC readers, leave me reviews if you're listening to this. But Story Origin is really cool because when it officially publishes on the 7th, I will send them all emails like with one fell swoop and like, reminder, please review this on Amazon and Goodreads.
That is nice. I mean, I always like find that interesting, like when authors talk about like getting ARC readers and stuff, and I'm like, that's the one thing I don't think I could ever. And people talk about this, or like, I could never get over the fact that somebody else would read our work. I got anxiety. I got depression. If somebody said something bad about my work, I think I would spiral. Like, I just am not the person for that. I mean, I am writing a book, but I probably will never publish it. And I just have a tons of work in progresses that I write and then I get bored of. And so I stop writing. And if that doesn't define ADHD, I don't know what does. But that's kind of how I am. So that's really interesting. So do you have like, since this is like your first time in your first debut novel, did you like what kind of research did you put into finding these ARC readers, or did you just post about it and was like, hey, here you go?
I am on, first of all, Author Talk, Writer Talk, Book Talk. It's like my entire feed on TikTok, and I love it. But I'm also a part of the Story Origin community. What is it, 20 books to 50K community. And so I have a lot of like indie author publishing sort of information being fed to me very consistently. And I pay really close attention to it. I actually, like, I am a scroller, but I won't do that. If I see something and I'm like, I need to know about this in one of these groups, I want to learn from all of those things. So I've just been really open and like disciplining myself to not scroll away because there's good information out there. So that's where I've been like learning and replicating what I see other people do, and usually putting my own Lori spin on it too.
I mean, I feel like the way TikTok and Book Talk has boomed within the last 2 years for authors and for us lay readers and influencers, I feel like it's been crazy. Like the amount of information I get, I literally had to make a separate TikTok for me to just aimlessly scroll through because I, as somebody who does create content for Book Talk, I'm like, I need a break. Like I need to just watch some dogs or some cats or some capybaras is what I've been like. The capybara side of TikTok is like all my feed now. So I definitely like get the scrolling endlessly through Book Talk, but then I'm like, oh dear, I need a break. It's break time, Maggie. But I definitely get that. That's really interesting because I feel like a lot of authors are like, well, I started as self-publishing and then I moved to um what's it called? Big publishing. I don't
like traditional
traditional publishing. Yeah, that's exactly what it's called.
You need to rename that.
Yeah, and I feel that's why I call it like big publishing because I feel like now with TikTok, indie authors are traditional authors too. Like some indie authors are more popular than traditionally published authors, and thanks to TikTok and the audience that they gain, they do get bought by big publishers. But they started as the indie author route and the non-traditional publishing route. But yeah, I probably have more indie author books than I do traditional published books. I value an indie author. Indie authors are great. I like them so much better. But yeah, I did want to ask you. So you said you did TikTok and stuff, and you wrote a children's book about based off of your kids. When did you write those? Because if you started writing romance within the last year, probably the first book took what, about a year?
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. And those were, so I wrote them a while before they were published because I was seeking a literary agent and trying to go what did you call it? The big publisher route.
The traditional publishing.
That.
Yeah, the
Yes.
big publisher route. Yeah.
My first stab at this was trying to do that. And I had very little knowledge of the industry. I got to learn the hard way about vanity publishers, and I found a literary agent who I signed a contract with because they thought that they could promote and get them onto a traditional publishing track. But that guy was like terrible. I could never get in touch with him. I would send an email. One of my emails even bounced back as if the email address didn't exist anymore. It was after a year that I had been with him. And I was like, hello, are you like, can we talk about this? Like, how is it going? You know, wow. But it was always me initiating contact. He would only ever email. And then after a year with him, I was like, I'm just going to self-publish these. Like, I want to end our contract. I didn't even know if he was still in business because of the bounce back and I couldn't get a hold of him. But I still sent an email and I was like, hey, thanks for your time. I don't think this is working. I'm just going to do some self-publishing through KDP. And he actually got back to me. Like, his email worked magically. And he was like, okay, have a great time. And I was like, hey, cool, great. So there was like a year buffer period where I had written that series and it had just stayed banked. I think that I published them in 2021, maybe, or early 2022, probably late 2021. So it's been rapid fire, but I didn't write that rapidly. I just had written them and they were laying around.
So what made you decide to do the indie route for the romance book? Was it kind of just the same thing where you're like, I'm just going to do this traditionally because I know I've done traditional publishing with your children's book, or did you think about doing it through big publishing?
I did think about it, but I had learned so much about indie authors and self-publishing by that point that I felt so much more confident. And it gives you a lot of freedom where you have complete creative control. And I like that because I love this story. And I wouldn't respond well if someone was like, you got to change all of this. I would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. So it just seemed like the best way to go, made sense. Now, I did do it differently this time. So I published through Ingram Spark as well as Amazon and KDP because I wanted it to be like widely available and not exclusive to Amazon. So that was a new adventure. And now it's like showing up on all of these sites. I do like my morning routine now includes like Googling remotely love to see where it shows up. And it's showing up as listed in all of these places for pre-order. And then there's more every day. And I'm like, this is great. I love this.
I honestly never heard about you said Ingram Sparks?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think I knew about Kindle Direct Publishing and Kindle Unlimited and authors. Like the amount of, I'm not even the subject of Kindle Unlimited. Like right now, I have not bought a book through Amazon in a while because of the treatment of indie authors on Amazon. And it's just, I'm just like, I don't know how I can, like, I want to support them, but then I'm also like, Amazon is also hurting you at the same time, but it's the only way I can support you kind of thing. So it's sometimes I just buy it off of their website.
There are pros and cons. So like just super transparently, the Ingram Spark is great because they are a distributor, right? It gets your book into Barnes and Noble and on bnn.com. It can get you into Target and Walmart. It can get you into all of the little bookstores that you love around town. Like it's the place to go if you want it to be on shelves or anywhere like outside of Amazon. And it can even get you onto Amazon if you just wanted to ignore Amazon completely. Ingram fulfills to Amazon. So it's a huge advantage is the fulfillment. And that happens just kind of automatically. Oh, libraries also. Get your book in libraries. Amazing. But they are much leaner margins. So I make more money if someone buys my paperback on Amazon versus anywhere else. So
and that's the point of Amazon, is to undercut every single other place.
It's true. It's true. But it's like, also, I will say, and I did a TikTok on this if anyone wants to see it, but like their proof copy is much more high quality than the Ingram copy. Like the color is truer, the pages are nicer, the print quality on the inside is way nicer. And that was shocking to me. And not everyone agrees with that. And there are things you can do because there's a lot of options on Ingram Spark. Like I could have just bought nicer paper, but again, your margins are already much thinner. And they do a wholesale discount. They encourage you to do 53 to 55% off to be stocked in places, which again, just kills your ROI as the author.
Because I always, so I worked at Barnes and Noble before. I worked there for about 2 years. And I would always like have like trying to find some indie authors. And I've had people come in who are like, oh, do you have this author here? And I look it up and I'm like, no, unfortunately we don't. And then I go Google it and I'm like, it's on Amazon. Like, I mean, I wasn't allowed to say it was on Amazon, but like, I was like, it's on another platform that I can't mention, but we do not have it here. And I've gotten some rude customers who are like, well, why the F do you not have this? And I'm like, it's not like, you think me getting paid minimum wage, they're going to care about my opinion about what books are in stock? No, I did do the smut table and my spice tower. I did those and I requested certain, yes, I had a spice tower where it was like different levels of spice and you could like select what kind of spicy book you want. So like minimal spice, and then they had like 5-level spicy. So I maintained that, but like there still was like a limited amount of books that I could put on there based on what we were requesting. They would ask us not to buy the books that were through Amazon. And so it was really hard when a lot of these authors who are very popular at the moment are on Amazon. But thankfully I know Bloom has been buying a lot of the rights to authors and stuff like that, which I'm also mad about because I want to create merch off of them and my love for their books, but then we can't, but we can get officially licensed, but also I don't want to pay money for it because it's already slim for us enough. So it's definitely, I also get that of like the slim margins of I want to be able to do it, but sometimes we just can't afford it. Like it's sometimes just too much to give. for them to take. But yeah, I totally get that. I do the. Do you kind of want to tell the story, the little Amazon mishap that happened? Because I know you mentioned that off the podcast, but the Amazon mishap that happened with Remotely Love.
Yes. Okay. So I decided that the launch date was going to be March 7th, Tuesday, traditional publishing launch date, right? It was ready to go. It just seemed like a good date. I was very happy about it. And so it's available for pre-order everywhere until the 7th. But when you're publishing on two different platforms and using the same ISBN, there are things that can happen that can go wrong, right? And the common advice is if you're doing Ingram Spark and KDP, to do it on Ingram first, lock in the ISBN there, then do it on Amazon second. Otherwise, Amazon claims the ISBN. And Ingram is like, this is already used. Yeah. Even though you own the ISBN and it's the exact same book, like it just causes like software fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did that after a lot of research because it scared me. ISBNs are expensive. And I kept watching the page on Amazon because you can do pre-orders for your ebook on Amazon, but not the paperback. And it looked normal and fine. And then one day, I guess a week ago now, it said paperback not available. And that wasn't there before. Or it said something about the paperback. And I was like, why is this suddenly here? Is Ingram fulfilling to Amazon? Because they do that. That's an option that you can take. And I didn't want it to happen again because of the margins. and the quality of the Amazon book is frankly better. So I was like, I really want to have this published through Amazon and not Ingram. What if there's a problem? And it like raised so many red flags for me. And I was like, okay, I need to know if there's an issue with the ISBN, because if there is, I can use another ISBN. I got a bunch, and maybe I would include like the bonus chapter inside the book instead of as like a link that people can go to get it, to make it just a little bit different somehow. And I was doing all of this game planning. I was like, okay, the only way to find out is to hit the publish button. There's literally no other way to do it. So I was like, maybe if I hit the publish button, there's like an unpublish or like a pause. There's not. There's not. So I hit the publish button and it did throw an error on my cover, which was weird because again, they gave me the proof copy and it's chef's kiss. It's perfect. So I don't know like why there's an issue now. Anyway, I fixed the cover and it published successfully. So there was no problem with the ISBN. But now it's like for sale. The paperback only is for sale on Amazon during the pre-order period before the 7th. So it's wonky and, you know, just weird. But these are the struggles of indie authors everywhere. What can you even do? Like, I don't know. The system is kind of rigged, it feels like sometimes.
I mean, yeah, I mean, our listeners, you can go buy it now, I guess. It hopefully will come in by Tuesday. But yeah, Amazon is just whack. I do love my indie bookshops and stuff. And I'm just like, great, I can buy from there. I buy from Target because that's where I shop. I'm a little bougie. I do shop at Target just because I get cash back. But yeah, Amazon, I've kind of been straying away from it. I do Audible though. That's the one thing is I do Audible because I need to get fast. I like to read a book within like 3 days if I can. So after that, I just goes downhill. I don't read it after 3 days. But yeah, it's interesting that happened and you kind of just published your book, right? And you're like, you didn't think about like taking it down or?
I did, but then I worried that there would be implications with that too. And bonus, it doesn't have the preview like inside the cover. You know what I'm talking about? It won't give you the preview for like up to 10 days. So I was like, well, I guess that will be there on launch day. Silver lining. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess now it's on there for longer. So it just, if somebody happens upon it, they can then just be like, oh, okay, I'll get it. Kind of thing.
Right.
But that's so crazy. You're just like, oh, okay, I'll just publish it. But I could see that fear of like, oh my gosh, is this gonna work? Like, that's
because if I had waited and then there was a problem, it takes 3 days with Bowker to even assign a new thing. So it would have been at least a week after launch to have it available. So I'd rather, erroneously go early than late.
Yeah. I mean, you do what you can.
Why doesn't Amazon just offer paperback pre-orders? It seems
I don't know why.
totally doable.
You would think, but I guess because I guess with the digital copy, they can just hold it, but I don't know why they can just hold the orders of fulfillment for the physical copies, because it's so weird, because I'm betting it's print on demand. So every time one is ordered, they just print it and then send it. So that's so weird. Amazon, I'm not going to question it. I'm not smart enough to question.
I know. Funny thing about Ingram pre-orders is that they will not show you the data too. So like Amazon, I can see my pre-orders for the ebook, which obviously like they have that data point. Why wouldn't it be available? Well, Ingram disagrees. They will not show you the pre-orders. And I'm like, oh, I know, like
just tell me.
I know, but you have to wait to the actual publishing date. And then I guess it clicks in. I thought that was real weird though.
That is, they're like holding their trade secrets. They're like, we're not going to tell you how many people actually want this until the day it launches. And then you can actually see. Like, it doesn't help the author at all. Well, it is kind of time to end. And thank you, Lori, for coming on. And thank you, our audience, for listening. So if you want to go check out Remotely Love, I will have all the links in the description. And if you check out our Instagram, I'll have a picture of Miss Lori and I'll have her tagged. So you'll be able to go to her page and look at her Instagram, look at her TikTok, look at her website, sign up for her newsletter, and all of that jazz. So I will hopefully see y'all guys in 2 weeks. I know I have been late with the episodes and it's been like over a month. I apologize. Not really, but yes, I apologize. Podcast guys, podcast gods, look down on me favorably, please. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.